The galactic soldier grunted as he shoved the boy forward. A rib-cage-thin limb jabbed him again, harder this time, and the boy stumbled through the archway into harsh white light. The roar met him. Thousands of voices, alien and awful, each one shrieking with a different number of lungs. The crowd loved this part. The entrance, the hesitation, the fear. But the boy didn't hesitate. He just stood there alone in the dust-flecked arena, feet bare, expression unreadable. 13, maybe 14 years old, with the kind of silence that unnerved even the announcer's booming voice. Representing the backwatered death planet Earth, the voice crooned, slick and condescending. Please welcome our next primitive contestant, unarmed, untrained, and let's be honest, unlikely to last past the first round. The boy looked up. His face was shadowed, bone-lean, with dark hair cut uneven, like it had been hacked with a blade. His eyes were calm, not terrified, not even curious, just aware, watching everything, calculating. He didn't wave, didn't posture, didn't scream like the last Earth candidate who'd soiled himself and begged for mercy. This one just stood there as the sand shifted in the wind. A dozen meters ahead, 3 gladiators waited. Behemoths, genetically engineered for speed, aggression, and showmanship. One was all-horned kitten. The second, a hulking ape-lizard hybrid with a serrated tail. And the third, well, it was mostly muscle and hate in armor form. A real crowd-pleaser. First match of a cycle. The announcer boomed somewhere high above. Place your bets, my noble and superior species. The crowd surged in their seats. Glistening tentacles waved betting credits. Mandibles clicked with anticipation. One alien screamed, "I'll give 10 ration cubes. He dies in under a minute." Another snorted, 30 seconds. Humans leak from the eyes. Weak pressure vessels. High above, inside a private balcony shielded by plasma glass, a cluster of senatorial figures watched with mild amusement. Their attention was split between their amusements and the viewing screen's bio-readouts. One old general squinted at the human stats. "No heart rate spike," he muttered. "No fear markers." "Malfunction," his aide replied. "It's a mammal from a radioactive jungle planet. Their biology is erratic. They cried during mating rituals." The general frowned. "Zoom on the neck." The aide obeyed. A glint, barely visible, swung slightly at the boy's chest. A tag. A dog tag. The old general leaned closer. His mandibles clicked softly. "Pause that. Enhance." But the AI system stuttered. "Security clearance insufficient." "What? Level 5 required." There was no level 5. Back in the arena, the horned gladiator took a step forward. The crowd hushed, ready for blood. The announcer's voice coiled around the silence like oil. "Let's see what Earth's finest has to offer." The horned gladiator charged. The boy didn't move. He stood there as half a ton of kitten and rage sprinted toward him with a thunderous roar, claws gleaming, breath reeking of spoiled protein packs. The alien raised its blade. Then the boy shifted. A single step, smooth, efficient, not dramatic, not even fast, just placed exactly where it needed to be. The gladiator missed. Missed completely. Momentum carried the creature past him, straight into the arena wall with a bone-rattling crash. Dust bloomed, metal dented. The crowd went silent. Somewhere, a popcorn-like snack was dropped. The boy turned his head slowly. No flourish, no grin. He simply watched the gladiator's twitching legs. "Did he move?" asked a senator. "I didn't see it," another said. The second gladiator stepped forward. Slower now. Tail swinging with weary weight. The announcer cleared his throat. "Ah, a strategic feint from the human. A fluke, surely. And now we see real combat." The boy walked. Not ran. Walked toward the second gladiator. "Come." Hands loose at his sides. The ape lizard snarled, spit sizzling as it hit the sand. It raised its club. The boy ducked under the swing with the indifference of someone brushing off a leaf, slid in, gripped the wrist. The next sound was wrong, organic, and final. The alien screamed. The boy had done something to the shoulder, dislocated, twisted, broken. Then he pivoted, let the weight fall, and in a movement almost gentle, slammed the alien face first into the dirt. It didn't get up. The arena sat frozen. Then a single voice from the upper decks whispered, I bet on the human." The announcer scrambled. Well now. Unusual display of random muscle spasms. Surely that primitive nervous system must be. "Shut up," someone muttered. The last gladiator, a 10-foot slab of armor and teeth, hesitated. It was breathing heavily now, hands twitching. The crowd had stopped cheering. They were watching the boy. He looked up finally, eyes like obsidian. Calm, cold. He tilted his head just slightly and smiled. The kind of smile that doesn't belong on a child. "Something's wrong," the old general said again, staring at the screen. "That movement, that control. Where's the fear?" His aide swallowed. "He's enjoying this." "No," the general said. "He's testing something." Down in the sand, the gladiator barked a threat in a language the boy didn't speak. Or maybe he did. He didn't react. He just raised one hand, palm upward, and beckoned. The crowd gasped, not at the gesture, at the thing now visible on his chest. His ragged tunic had shifted with the wind. The dog tag glinted under the alien sun. Unit Black Dawn. ID number 073. Status: active. Authorization: Eclipse. The screen blinked, then glitched. For 3 seconds, the entire arena's viewing system shut down. The plasma ads. The vitals. The betting interface. All dark. When it returned, the boy was standing over the third gladiator's crumpled form. Not a scratch on him. The arena was utterly still. The boy looked up at the crowd, at the cameras, at the Empire. He raised the dog tag with 2 fingers and let it drop. It hit his chest with a soft metallic clink. In the silence, the omniscient voice that had narrated thousands of deaths tried to find the words. Victory! By the human contestant. The crowd didn't cheer. They watched the boy turn away. Not toward the exit, not toward the other gates. He just sat down cross-legged in the dirt, as if this whole event had been irrelevant. In the senator's box, the aide trembled. "What do we do?" The old general stared. "We pray Earth isn't watching." A few rows down, a military official turned pale. "We executed one of their diplomats last cycle, publicly." Another voice whispered. "He's just a boy." "No," the general said. "He's a reminder." "Of what?" "That humans don't send children." He looked down at the dog tag still flashing on screen. "They send warnings." There were 3 kinds of silence in the Galactic Empire. The first was ceremonial, usually after a declaration of war or, worse, a budget speech. The second was awkward, typically when the Frock's ambassador mistook a water jug for a ceremonial urinal. But the third, the rarest, was the silence of fear. And that silence now stretched across the 27 worlds that broadcast the arena. Because the boy hadn't died. In fact, he'd sat down in the sand like a monk after casually dismantling 3 apex predators on live galactic television. And the worst part? He wasn't even sweating. This must be cultural, the Senate's press council declared within minutes. Some form of instinctive violence display common among Earth's death mammals. Nothing to worry about. Nothing to worry about. Except now every major military channel was frozen on a single image. The dog tag on the boy's chest, still glowing faintly with the words, Black Dawn. No species in the Empire could confirm what that meant. Because no species in the Empire had ever been given Earth's full clearance access. And suddenly, everyone wanted it. Across the galaxy, paranoia was waking up early. On Zircle Prime, a bloated administrator slammed his fist on a coral desk. Have we verified the human's registration? Was he scanned at intake? Is he chipped? The room of bureaucrats shuffled paper and plasma pads. One finally spoke. "Sir, there's no entry data for him." "What?" "He was never processed. We assumed he was part of the planetary offering. A primitive gift." The administrator blinked. "So, he snuck into the most secure arena on the inner worlds?" The silence said yes. Or rather, humans don't sneak. They slip in unnoticed until it's far too late. On the orbital broadcast tower above Arena Sector 9, the announcer paced his chamber. "It's bad," he muttered. "I called him a primitive 6 times in the first 5 minutes." His assistant, a gelatinous being with 17 eyes, jiggled with concern. "Should we issue a retraction?" "A retraction for calling a child a hairless mammal?" "No, we lean in. Say it was sarcasm, irony, something culturally respectful." He paused. "What even is Black Dawn?" Back in the arena, the boy still hadn't moved. He sat cross-legged in the blood-soaked dust, eyes half closed as if meditating or listening to something no one else could hear. Security drones circled overhead, confused. They'd been programmed to recognize aggression, erratic movement, and unsanctioned weaponry. They had not been trained to handle stillness, especially the dangerous kind. And make no mistake, this wasn't peace. This was containment. High above, a private security suite buzzed with voices. "He's what, 14? A military analyst asked. "Possibly younger," said another. "But his vitals are controlled. Breathing at 8 per minute. Adrenaline near 0. That's impossible for a human. For a trained killer." The alien analyst leaned back. "What kind of child doesn't panic after combat?" A third officer glanced at a suspended file with one blinking line: "Access request, Earth Military Database, Class Black Dawn. Status: denied. Override: unavailable." "You think he's one of the ghost projects?" someone whispered. "Ghosts don't smile," the officer said. And he did. They all fell silent, because outside the arena walls, the world was unraveling in ways no one had expected. Let's rewind for a moment. The Galactic Empire, so majestic in its own press releases, had spent centuries believing in one fundamental truth: aliens evolve, humans explode. Humanity had arrived late to the galactic stage. Messy, loud, obsessed with war films, caffeine, and improbable comebacks. No one took them seriously at first. Even after humans won a few border skirmishes, the official explanation was always the same: they got lucky. Luck. That convenient little lie bureaucracies use to explain things they don't want to understand. Because understanding humans meant admitting the Empire had bred itself into blindness. Take the Throxians, for example, a race of intellectual jellyfish that invented 19 types of tax before discovering agriculture. They prided themselves on logic. They also lost half a navy in the Battle of Nibiru because they refused to break formation after being flanked by Earth's chaotic microships piloted by caffeine-drunk teenagers. Then there were the Crawl, elite war fanatics with titanium bones and ceremonial scream spears. They attacked Earth's Arctic Settlement 6 and were defeated by an improvised weather balloon, 2 shotguns, and a grandmother named Inaz. Earth filed no formal report because Earth had learned something the Empire hadn't: silence wins wars. Back in the arena, the crowd had started murmuring again. Not cheering, not mocking, whispering. They wanted to know the boy's name, his rank, why his dog tag had 4 language overlays, including one in a dialect older than the Empire itself. The announcer tried to pivot. "Spirited performance by our youngest contender. Now, on to our next matchup." The next gate opened. Nothing came out. The creature inside, a winged predator bred specifically for arena slaughter, refused to step forward. It smelled something wrong. Across the galaxy, military recruitment centers began to see subtle changes. Videos of the boy's performance were going viral. Alien youth imitated his stance. Some asked to be transferred to Earth divisions. Others asked if humans could be mentors. The Galactic Military PR unit rushed to contain the shift. "Earth youth not typical," they declared. "Do not engage humans without proper forms." Meanwhile, on a quiet moon orbiting Zeta Dian, a retired human commander watched the footage and chuckled. "Took longer than I thought," she whispered. Her dog tag read, "Black Dawn, retired." The central conflict was no longer in the arena. It was now in every senator's war room, every planetary broadcast, every propaganda department trying to spin what they'd just seen into something harmless. But how do you explain a child who fights like a weapon, who moves with the silence of a sniper, who looks into the eyes of his enemy and sees not challenge, but calculation? Inside the Empire's central data vault, a final attempt was made to access the Earth clearance layer. The AI interface refused with a message so blunt it had to be human-coded. Access denied. Stop poking the bear. That message alone sparked 6 emergency subcommittee meetings and the sudden resignation of a planetary admiral. Back in the arena, the boy finally stood. Not to fight, to leave. He walked toward the nearest exit without looking back, and not one guard moved to stop him. He didn't need permission. He had presence, and presence was more dangerous than any weapon in the galaxy. In the senator's viewing booth, the old general leaned back. "I told him," he murmured. "I told him not to prod Earth's silence. Silence is where they hide their monsters." His aide, pale now, asked, "What do we do?" The general stared at the screen as the boy vanished through the shadowed gate. "We rewrite the war manuals." He turned. "And pray he doesn't come back with friends." There were no trumpets, no drums, no fanfare for the second round. The arena crew didn't even bother to clear the bodies. 2 of them still twitched in the sand, limbs bent at unnatural angles. One had soil in its eye sockets. The crowd had stopped cheering 10 minutes ago. Now they watched like archaeologists at a site where the wrong bones had been unearthed. The boy stood in the middle of the pit again, barefoot, his tunic blood-flecked, but otherwise intact. He blinked slowly, like someone who hadn't just redefined the Empire's definition of threat. The dog tag still hung from his neck, swaying slightly as he breathed. The announcer hadn't spoken in 5 minutes. No one knew what to say when the narrative broke this badly, and the narrative had shattered the moment the first gladiator missed. It should have been a spectacle. It should have been a lesson. Instead, it was a warning the Empire was trying very hard not to hear. But denial has a limit. And that limit arrived in the form of Unit 917, the Empire's elite gladiator hybrid. Engineered in a VAT flash, trained in 87 forms of combat, and enhanced with adrenal coils and thermal sight optics. The creature stood 3 meters tall, plated in dull green armor that wasn't supposed to be removable. Every muscle group was overdeveloped, every nerve strand tuned for aggression. He had never lost a match, never flinched, never hesitated, until now. 917 stepped into the arena and paused. His pupils dilated, breathing slowed. The crowd leaned forward, expecting an explosion of movement. But 917 didn't charge. He looked at the boy and tilted his head. The boy stared back. No stance, no flex, just that same impossible calm. In the viewing box above, a dozen alien generals huddled around holofeeds, debating protocol breaches and containment scenarios. "He's unarmed," one hissed. "The protocol states no lethal action against unarmed juveniles." "He's not a juvenile," someone snapped. "He's Earth's version of a message. They just pack it in smaller containers." "I say we pull him out." "Pull him out of where? We never put him in." 917 took a step forward. The boy didn't react. He seemed to be listening. Not to the creature, but to something internal, as if waiting for a signal. He blinked once, and that's when the fight, the one they'd all expected from the beginning, finally happened. Just not the way they planned. 917 roared, a sound engineered to shatter enemy morale and rupture weak eardrums. The boy didn't flinch. The creature lunged and vanished. For a moment, the audience thought he'd teleported. But what really happened was worse. The boy had moved too fast for cameras, too precise for comprehension. 1 second, 917 had launched himself through the air with a serrated plasma blade. And the next, he was flat on the ground, face buried in the dust, blade gone, spine exposed. The boy crouched beside him. One hand gripped the back of the creature's neck. The other pressed 2 fingers lightly to a spot behind the ear. "Don't," he whispered. Not a threat, a suggestion. 917 froze. Somewhere in the sand, the tip of the plasma blade glowed where it had landed, 10 feet from its owner. The boy stood again. No flourish, no expression. He didn't hurt 917. He ended him without making it theatrical, and that was somehow worse. The announcer's voice finally returned, quivering. "Ah, our elite combatant appears to be incapacitated." In the viewing deck, chaos bloomed. He took down 917 with 2 fingers. He whispered something. What did he say? The audio feed was scrubbed, analyzed, and deconstructed by 4 translation AIs. The final output was flagged, human speech detected. Earth English dialect unknown. Phrase, don't. Context, mercy. Mercy, the generals cried. That was a mercy kill. No worse, said the old general. That was control. Back in the pit, the boy walked toward the viewing glass, slowly, casually, hands behind his back, posture straight. He looked up into the stands, not searching, not scanning, knowing. He locked eyes with a camera drone and smiled. The feed cut out all across the Empire. Screens went black. A simple message replaced the broadcast. Transmission interrupted per Earth Directive Alpha. None of the broadcast towers could override it, not even the ones located in Empire-controlled space. What's Earth Directive Alpha? A junior official asked. Something that doesn't exist, his superior whispered. And then a second message appeared. Congratulations, you've triggered observational status. Good luck. The galactic stock market crashed 20% in 4 minutes. Military sectors went dark. Diplomatic channels to Earth flooded with requests for clarification. None were answered. Because the fight was never about winning. The boy had never come to prove anything. He came to be seen. He came to remind them that Earth was still watching, still listening, still preparing. In the shadows of the arena's outer ring, maintenance drones tried to clean up the blood, but their programs kept crashing whenever they scanned the humans' footprints. Too much heat, too many anomalies. The boy had walked barefoot on atomic sand and didn't leave burns. One of the drones finally tried to scan his tag. It exploded. Literally. The Empire flagged the incident as a rogue AI event, but no one believed it. Not anymore. The senators called an emergency summit. The military wanted to apologize. The corporations wanted to recruit the boy. The religious cults declared him a sign. And Earth said nothing. Because Earth knew the Empire still hadn't learned the lesson. Not fully. In the viewing room, a Xerelian historian muttered, I thought humans were emotional, impulsive. The general didn't look away from the blank screen. That's what they wanted you to think. I thought they were chaotic. No, he said. They're deliberate. They just speak the language of chaos. Outside in the dirt, the boy finally sat again. Same posture, same silence. Only now there were no opponents and no more bets. The arena, the great symbol of imperial power, had just been turned into a monument to fear, to respect, to a single human child who never raised his voice, never needed a weapon, and still reminded the Empire what it meant to underestimate Earth. And the final image the arena drones caught before shutting down was the boy looking skyward, as if listening for something, or waiting. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the Cosmic Conquerors channel. Before we start, I hope you subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so that you receive all the new content, and also share the story with your friends so it reaches as many people as possible. And if you have a story, write it in the comments. Maybe we'll choose one to narrate in the next video. Let's start the story. Pay attention, because there's a small detail that might change your entire perspective and awareness of life. Panic, like most pandemics, spread fastest among the well-fed. In the 20 minutes following the arena blackout, 17 galactic ministries convened emergency meetings. 6 declared martial law. 1 dissolved itself entirely. By hour 1, 3 warlords had resigned from pride alone. By hour 2, someone in the core world Senate made the mistake of asking aloud, does Earth still have nuclear capabilities? The room went quiet because no one knew. And that, more than the boy, more than the silence, more than the tag, was the most terrifying realization of all. No one knew what Earth had anymore. Because the Empire had stopped paying attention. They'd filed humanity under controlled species, emotionally volatile, technologically primitive, and left the rest to interns. And now one boy, one barefoot, dirt-smeared boy, had walked through their finest gladiators like a breeze through curtains. No shouting, no speeches, just movement, restraint, and one smirk that somehow carried the weight of 1,000 unspoken consequences. The Empire was bleeding. Not physically, not yet. But ideologically, its entire system, its belief in hierarchy, superiority, perfection, had cracked because someone at the top finally whispered what no one wanted to admit: we underestimated them. In the lower decks of the Galactic Archive complex, a data analyst pulled a forgotten file marked Earth. Observation ended Cycle 431. Inside, buried in obsolete formats, was a quote, an intercepted Earth broadcast, grainy, incomplete, translated roughly, "Let them think we're primitive. It's the last mistake they'll ever get to make twice." The file was redacted 2 days after receipt. The analyst's clearance was revoked before she could finish reading it. What do you think? Did the analyst deserve to get her clearance revoked? At Galactic Central Command, a rising committee of species tried to explain the arena event as a contained anomaly. They blamed poor vetting procedures. They blamed system errors. They blamed human biology. No one blamed the boy because the boy wasn't the problem. He was the announcement. Back in the private Senate chamber, where the walls were lined with holographic plaques commemorating centuries of peaceful conquest, Panic wore silk robes and used words like re-evaluation and containment strategy. "He's not a soldier," one diplomat said. "Of course he is," muttered the general. "He's a child." "He's a reminder," the general corrected. A quiet little message with a tag around its neck saying Earth never forgot. But why now? Why the arena? To make it public. Across the galaxy. The footage, despite takedown efforts, was being spliced, memed, retranslated, and archived. Pirate networks ran it on loop with dramatic music overlays. Some titled it The Sandwalker. Others just used a single word, return. On backwater planets, children imitated the boy's stance, quiet, loose, watching. Criminals refused to engage human settlers. Pirate crews that once targeted Earth cargo rerouted. Recruitment to Earth's foreign legions tripled in 40 hours. Alien generals from the old wars didn't speak on record, but off it they whispered, they never disarmed. They just learned patience. In a sterile tower above the capital, the Empire's leading behavioral theorist paced in his silver-lined sandals. "They don't act like apex predators," he muttered. "No," said his assistant. "They act like prey." The theorist froze. What? Quiet, calculating, observant. Like something that learned to survive by watching everyone else die first. In a chamber miles below, a translator AI attempted again to decrypt the dog tag. Its systems overheated and fried. It was the third unit that week. The data stream had embedded countermeasures, human-crafted logic puzzles that looped infinitely, riddled with references to Terran mythos and binary palindromes. One AI got as far as this sentence before crashing, "If you're reading this, you've already lost." And the question still haunted every meeting, every hallway, every sleepless mind in the Empire. Who was he? Theories abounded. An illegal clone, a rogue AI in flesh form, a failed Earth experiment dumped into the arena for cleanup, an accidental godchild of war. But one conclusion rose above the rest, terrible and undeniable. He wasn't alone. He was trained. He was deployed. That word, deployed, landed like a punch in every diplomatic gut because deployed meant there were orders, which meant there were more, which meant Earth had been waiting and now it was watching again. On the moon world of Sel Caris, a retired ambassador received a message. No sender, no metadata, just a line of text, "They're checking your reaction time." She shut down every device in her home and left the planet within the hour. In the arena, meanwhile, the sand had been cleared, the blood washed, the walls reinforced. And still no one entered. The place was technically open. The next combat cycle already scheduled, but no one volunteered. Even the vat-grown warriors had gone dormant. They wouldn't leave their pods. Some claimed to hear footsteps when the lights dimmed. The arena was cursed, they said. No, it was claimed. And in its center, underneath layers of packed dust and sterilization chemicals, a single human footprint had refused to be scrubbed. It had burned in. Back in the capital, Earth's ambassador, long thought ornamental, arrived at the Senate doors unannounced. He wore civilian clothes, no weapons, no retinue, just a sealed envelope. Inside the Senate, silence fell like a blade. He approached the speaking podium. His expression was unreadable, somewhere between tired and curious. He set the envelope down. "This," he said, "is not a threat." The senators leaned forward. "It's a request." They waited. "Stop poking the planet you keep calling primitive." The ambassador left without waiting for a response. The envelope remained sealed. Inside was a single photo. A group of children in ragged clothes smiling. Each wore a dog tag. Only one of them had survived the Earth civil collapse, the Reclaimer Wars, the Outpost Siege, and the Black Winter Offensive. Only one had ever left Earth. The others were still training. The final caption under the photo read, "Recruitment Class Number 1, Black Dawn Project." One of the senators collapsed. Another tried to resign. A third quietly messaged her planetary governor to begin evacuation protocols, just in case. Because it was now clear the boy was not the beginning of a war. He was the end of their illusion. Earth wasn't behind. It was hiding. And now they had sent one of their hidden things into the light. Not to destroy, but to remind. What do you think, at that moment, what should the senators have done? In the war rooms of 3 starfaring species, the same 2-word plan was quietly added to contingency files: appease Earth. But the question still echoed. What does Earth want? No land demands, no trade deals, no territories, just silence. And a single footprint in the arena. They didn't find the boy. They found the tag. 2 days after the arena blackout, a scout drone stumbled upon it embedded in the metal floor of a corridor beneath the main structure. No blood, no body, just the tag left deliberately, like punctuation at the end of a sentence no one wanted to read aloud. They quarantined the sector. Debated vaporizing it entirely, but someone higher up wanted answers. Always answers. So they scanned it carefully, remotely, with 10 layers of shielded protocol. This time it didn't explode. It opened. No warning, no firewalls, just a data drop. Clean, cold, controlled. At first it looked like a name, then a date, then a location. Not Earth. Lunar Black Site Echo 6, shut down 80 years ago after a failed joint operation between human and alien peacekeepers. The Empire had written it off as a training accident. They'd said, species incompatibility. They never asked what happened to the children. Not after Earth stopped responding to inquiries. Not after the ceasefire was quietly honored and the diplomatic focus shifted to less embarrassing things. There were no survivors. That's what the report said. And yet there was his name again. Classified, redacted, rewritten under so many layers of encoded shame that it took 3 alien minds and 1 reluctant AI to translate it. He had no surname, no digital footprint, no genetic file, just a unit number. 73, one of 78. Born during the collapse, raised under blacklight and silence. No formal language training, no civilian history, no cultural anchors, just reflexes, just programming, just stillness and survival. His entire life had been combat drills, observation labs, stress simulations, and conditioning that made the Empire's militaries look like kindergartens. At age 5, he beat a neural assassin drone to death with a broken data shard. At age 6, he survived an oxygen drop trial alone in lunar orbit for 7 days. At age 8, he was deemed too unstable for peacetime integration. At age 9, he disappeared from records. He didn't vanish. He was simply reassigned. Earth never sent envoys after that. It just sent rumors. Some whispered of a classified ghost force trained for first contact retribution. Others called them the children of Fallout. The boy was never briefed on any of it. He was told one thing over and over: wait. So he did. Until the order came 2 years ago, relayed through a civilian channel embedded in a children's book. The message was just 2 lines: the Empire has forgotten. Remind them. He had no weapon, no uniform, no home, just the tag and the training. The rest was instinct. The arena wasn't a mission. It was a calibration. He needed to see if they still remembered fear. They didn't. But now they did. Because what scared the Empire wasn't what he did. It was what he didn't do. He didn't kill unless forced. He didn't speak unless necessary. He didn't posture, threaten, or gloat. He walked in like a ghost and left like a message. And the tag left behind was the signature. Above the tag, scrolled faintly into the arena floor, were 2 words: not alone. They found it just before the lights in the sector flickered again. Before the cameras picked up a shadow that didn't match the architecture, before another tag appeared. This one smaller, fresh, new. Someone else had come through. Another child, another ghost. They never saw a face, just a tag. Unit 39. It pulsed once before vanishing. Across the galaxy, strategic command centers initiated backup protocols. Generals began canceling public appearances. Training simulations were rewritten. A single report made its way to the Empire's central archive. It was flagged Emergency Doctrine Override and locked behind the highest access levels. The subject line was short, Black Dawn is active. The last sentence read, "Do not provoke Earth. They've already forgiven more than we deserved." But it was too late for diplomacy. Because the Empire hadn't just provoked Earth. It had dismissed it, mocked it, laughed at its broken systems, its backward tech, its emotional volatility, its ancient languages, its chaos. And Earth, brilliant, brutal Earth, had listened to every insult, archived every broadcast, and quietly prepared for the day it would no longer need to warn anyone. Just remind them. They still don't know how the boy got off-world. He left no footprints outside the arena, no ship departure, no wormhole trace, only rumors. A merchant swore he saw a child boarding a diplomatic vessel under escort. A freighter crew claimed they heard humming in their air vents before 3 crates of outdated tech were gone. One camera picked up a silhouette, leaning against the docking bay wall, arms folded, eyes watching, then gone. Earth never claimed him, but the ambassador, during a closed-door session, offered a single quiet sentence: "We don't own them. We raised them." When asked how many more existed, he smiled sadly. "As many as you've forgotten." The room stayed silent for a long time. After that, the senator from the outer belt asked the obvious question. What happens if they stop reminding and start acting? No one had an answer. But one general, retired from the Earth conflicts, stood and walked to the screen. He enlarged the last still frame of the boy in the arena, the one just before the blackout. The child standing in the dust, head tilted slightly, expression unreadable. Behind him, the shadows of the gladiators fallen around him. The echo of a crowd that would never cheer again. He pointed to the boy's hand. Not clenched, not raised, just open, palm up, as if waiting. "Do you see that?" the general said. They all nodded. "What do you think he was doing?" They offered guesses. A signal, a surrender, a taunt? "No," the general said. "He was holding space." "For what?" The general didn't answer, but he looked down at the floor where another envelope had been delivered an hour earlier. No courier, no digital trace, just paper, human style, ink smudged. Inside was a photograph. Children, not in training, not in gear, just sitting under a collapsed tower, dirty, grinning. In the center was the boy, younger, smaller, and a single line handwritten at the bottom: "We didn't choose to be soldiers, but we chose not to be slaves." The photo was passed around. No one spoke because now the truth had settled in their bones like winter. Earth had never needed an army. It had needed time. Time to recover. Time to observe. Time to raise the kind of vengeance no empire could predict. Vengeance that came small, soft-spoken, and smiling. The kind that waited until the moment no one was looking and then looked right back. When the meeting adjourned, someone asked if the arena would reopen. The response was immediate. No. Another senator asked what to do with the boy's tag. The ambassador replied, "You don't do anything with it." He turned. "You remember it." And then he left the room. No guards, no escort, just quiet footsteps echoing in a hall that suddenly felt much larger than it had. And with that, we have reached the end of the story, but stories don't end here. If you like the story, don't forget to hit like and subscribe to the channel so you receive all the new content. And if you have an opinion or something that caught your attention, leave a comment and let's discuss together. I'm waiting for your opinions, and see you in the next story. Bye.